Hello, welcome back to Sapling Tarot. My name is Imogen. Today we're going to be doing a VR to Tarot Shrink's self-care bundle tag, which I thought was such a lovely idea. It's a brilliant video, go check it out. This is also kind of a VR to Sylvie at Tarot Magpie's video, Tarot when you feel squishy. Which I think is something that we all need, quite frankly. I've got some decks to talk to you about, got some books to talk to you about, and I've got some other kind of life things for the self-care bundle. I'm going to start off with this zine, because this is by a wonderful creator over on Instagram. I will link everyone below. And they are an occupational therapist here in the UK, and she started this series of really cute illustrations about things that are self-care. So here you've got like went outside, woke up and got out of bed, attended to all my dental care, drank enough water. All of these things, particularly through like an OT lens, are self-care. And I think that we forget that. I think self-care has kind of been like branded as this like cute and fluffy kind of consumerist thing where you buy a thing to take care of yourself, or you do this one elaborate kind of ritual to take care of yourself, rather than the like day in, day out things that we do to care for and nourish our bodies and our minds and our souls and all of that kind of stuff. And so I think it's really good to think about it, like to start small and to think about these things like, yeah, you know, getting out of bed. And yeah, so this is a zine that they made about all of the different kinds of self-care that they'd illustrated. And then I'll just flick through a couple of pages. So yeah, things like taking your medication or going to the doctors, things like trying to go to sleep at a good time for you, changing your bedding, I know that's a big one for me. And so yeah, so it doesn't have to be big and elaborate, but it's just the things that we do, doing the dishes, vacuuming, putting the bins out, like all of these things are ways of caring for ourselves. And they're all really important. So this is really great. I don't know if this zine in particular is available anymore, but I really recommend giving Hannah Daisy a follow, and yeah, considering these kinds of things as part of your self-care practice. So all of these things are essential parts of my self-care bundle, but these are hard things to show online. So things like, you know, taking my meds and going to therapy and drinking enough water. Speaking of which, I don't think I actually have taken my tablets today, so I'm going to go do that. Practice what you preach, Imogen, practice what you preach. So on to the more kind of like fun side of this. I'm going to start with some like less tarot related things. just so that I can like get them off my desk, and then we will get into the decks. I'm going to start off with this one because this one is making me laugh, because this is not actually a bar of chocolate, it is a chocolate wrapper, because I have already eaten it. I had this like squirreled away to one side to keep for this video, and yeah, I needed a moment this week. I had a bit of a rough period, and so the chocolate got eaten. But big recommend on Tony's Chocolonely if you're going to get chocolate, and then particularly, you know, for those of us who are trying to stick with kind of BDS friendly businesses, yeah, highly recommend Tony's Chocolonely. I particularly like their kind of like faux Toblerone one with honey and nougat and almonds in it, but this was delicious. Another consumable is, and I'm not entirely sure about the name of this, if this like counts as like culturally appropriative or kind of insensitive, so please excuse the name, but this is a tea from Bird and Blend down in Brighton, and it's white tea, so it's kind of like low caffeine. I'm generally a decaf person, specifically if you're interested, the Marks and Spencer's decaf ones, because they can get to a reasonable strength without tasting like fish from the adhesive on the tea bags. But if I'm feeling a bit wonky, sometimes I need like that kind of medium caffeine thing, and so this is really great. It smells amazing. So what is it? It's white silver needle tea with spiritual spearmint. I'm not sure about that. So spearmint and jasmine. Name notwithstanding, it's a really lovely tea, and I find it really soothing. I mean, I'm a herbal tea person, so depending on the particular kind of self-soothing self-care I need to be doing, I will drink, you know, like a chamomile tea or various other soothing herbs. I find yarrow quite useful. Yeah, all of those planty allies come out when it's time for a self-soothing cup of tea. Books wise, I've got some non-fiction. This is actually kind of a placeholder book for Wintering by Catherine May. I haven't read this one yet. This one I just got secondhand from World of Books fairly recently. But yeah, this is like a little placeholder, and I have no wonder or no doubt that this is, I was reading the word wonder, I have no doubt that this is going to be equally good, but I really recommend Wintering. And any of these books about like managing and prioritizing rest and like the following the kind of natural cycles of the world. So not in like a, it doesn't have to be like a menstrual cycle or something, but just like the seasons and all of that kind of stuff. I think that it's a really helpful way of reframing the kind of constant hustle that so many of us are kind of pushed into. So yeah, I really recommend Catherine May's writing. She's a late diagnosed autistic woman, and I think that her perspective is one that lots of people could benefit from if it's not the kind of thing that you've thought about before. I know that many people have, and you know, there's a lot of kind of Indigenous wisdom around the world that none of this is kind of new to. But if this is new to you, I really recommend her writing. In terms of fiction, my comfort books are, if you've watched my previous book video, you'll know that I'm more of an e-reader person. So I'll try and put up some nice little pictures of the covers. So The Watchmaker of Filigree Street and like all of Natasha Pulley's books are probably my go-to comfort books. Then Sophie's World by Justine Garda, the Beekeeper's Apprentice series, the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series, and the A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet series, which I think is called the Wayfarers series. Those are all my like cozy comfy. Oh, also The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. All of those ones. Cozy folklore type good stuff. Other media, I simply rewatch and watch and rewatch QI and listen to the No Such Thing as a Fish podcast. That kind of like low stakes trivia comedy type stuff. Just it helps. I also watch Tarot Tube, if I'm entirely honest. And yeah, were any other things before I get into the decks? Nothing else is on my list. So let's get to the bit that presumably we're all here for, which is the decks. I have 6 tarot decks, 4 oracle decks. I have 10 decks in total. That is nice and tidy. Good job, Imogen. The first one is the Herbcrafters Tarot, which you've seen a bunch on my channel recently. It is a herbal kind of like pencil, like really kind of almost photorealistic at points, but like soft pencil drawing art deck. It focuses on herbs, unsurprisingly, not ones that are particularly native to where I live, but I think to North America and maybe Central America. I can't remember exactly where the creators are from, but there's all sorts of wisdom imparted in a really gentle and practical way. And I just find the imagery, and I love this so much. Yeah, I find the imagery really comforting, and the wisdom in the cards and the guidebook really like supportive, I suppose. Like I find, because each card has like a little ritual attached to it or a little craft or something you can do, and I find that a really helpful thing for if you're feeling a bit, I don't know, challenged or struggling in that moment. I think something that gives you a little bit of gentle direction can be really wonderful. So that's the Herbcrafters Tarot. Shall I do Tarot then Oracle? Yeah, I will. Okay, so the first Oracle deck, sticking on the kind of herbal theme, is the Hedge Witch Botanical Oracle. And these are quite like stripped back illustrations, that they're kind of like botanical illustrations. And this has a really good guidebook as well. I think that these ones are more consistently native. She says that she turns up California poppy, although these fucking grow everywhere here. I saw some on a cliffside the other day. Yeah, these are more native, so I know more of these and have access to more of these where I live. So that feels quite grounding and settling if I'm feeling a bit, I don't know, almost like dissociative. Like I find this like brings me back to my surroundings, and I'm always very grateful when I pull out this deck. I don't pull it out often enough, if I'm honest. But this card in particular saw me through a really difficult time last year. Like just having this up and having it to refer to was really, really helpful. And so we now grow loads of calendula in our garden. But yeah, so that's the Hedge Witch Botanical Oracle. If you ever see any other botanical tarot decks, do let me know. It is, I try not to be too kind of much of a collector, kind of completionist collector. I'm always interested in more perspectives on herbalism, and botanical illustrations are some of my absolute favourite. So that's that one. These are the backs. Put them in the little pouch. So next tarot deck is the Tarot de Carlotides. I always stumble over that one so much, and I think I find this one comforting from like a sort of fairy tale perspective, it can be quite a pointy, like prickly deck. Like it can give some really serious readings, but the colour palette and the sort of fairy tale nature of it, I find, can kind of soften any reading. I mean, even that one, like those are just such beautiful colours, and I really like the kind of monochromatic thing. I just find it quite like restful to look at, even if it's helping me work through some like really challenging moments, or you know, things are feeling really difficult and complex. I find that this deck, look at him, look. I find, yeah, I think that this is a really one of the most gorgeous fools. It's so good. Yeah, I find this deck really useful for when I need to work through some difficult stuff, but I need them to be like soft with me, I guess. Okay, so next Oracle deck is probably no surprise. This is the Thistledown Oracle by Three Trees Tarot, and I've talked about this one a fair bit recently, it feels like. I just find them so, some of the cards are quite like sad or like poignant, but again there's kind of like this sort of like nurturing thing. Like, look at that, this little mouse. I'm so excited for the Heartwood Tarot. Like, these illustrations are just so, I mean, look, he's so ferocious. He's so tiny and so ferocious. So yeah, I think this was something that was said in the original video, but like self-care decks aren't necessarily all about being like kind of pink and fluffy and squishy, although I love a pink and fluffy and squishy deck. When I need kind of support, I need things to be a little bit more like pragmatic, I suppose, but like done with love. I need there to be like a stability, like a stability to it, rather than it being too airy. So this is someone with like almost entirely an air chart, but yeah, I like things that feel quite grounded. I mean, loads of these are kind of like nature-based decks, and so maybe I've like taken that too literally, but yeah, something quite sturdy is what I look for in a deck to use for kind of self-care purposes. Love that. Not a huge kind of moth person, but I think that's super cute. Off the otter, I love them. Okay, right. Let's not just show you every single card in all of these decks. We keep the otter. Okay, kind of sticking to the theme of things that, or like what I was talking about not necessarily going for the super soft decks. Outgrow Yourself is like, for me, the ultimate self-care deck, because it's not really going to let you wallow. In a previous video, I said that like all of these, like the oracle part of it, you could just finish with the word like dickhead, and that's how it feels. It feels like that friend that will let you talk and let you vent and let you be upset and like hold you in your feelings and your reality, but also like as soon as you're ready for getting out of that space, it's like right there, like find your purpose. What do you need to take the first step? Oh, that's nice. Every day in every way things will be better. And I just think that this is a really good friend in a deck, the Outgrow Yourself Tarot and Oracle. I think it's just like, it's really wise. It's a bit prickly, but it's yeah, it's the kind of friend you need when things are difficult. Okay, next Oracle is basically
the same as the Thistledown. This is the Woodland Wardens mass market deck. And again, like I was saying, I just find these kind of like nature decks to be really supportive. Most of these are kind of like native, and then there's some exceptions. Some things that you don't see so much where I live. But I love him. I love him so much. But yeah, like I've said already about all of these decks, I find not many Caymans where I'm from. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of wisdom in these cards, but they're quite gentle, and I just think that they're really fab. I mean, a lot of these decks you could kind of use interchangeably, but there's like subtle differences in the kinds of wisdom that you get from all of them, and so therefore, I don't like eels. So therefore, in my opinion, they're worth having all of them. So that is the Woodland Wardens, which is something I really struggle to say. Woodland Wardens. Okay, so tarot deck. Wandering Star. This is one that was in my kind of purgatory pile for a while, and then I used it in my Witches for Palestine video and pulled it out. And I think I'm a little bit resistant to it sometimes because of the keywords, but I think if you're feeling a bit squishy and things are feeling a bit hard, the keywords can be really useful, and it really does feel like someone is like talking you through a difficulty. I also think the illustrations are really charming, and they remind me a lot of one of my oldest friends, and I think that they're just, there's something quite, I mean, how many times can I say the word comforting in one video? But yeah, there's something really kind of wholesome about it, and you can sort of look past the keywords sometimes. And so this is one that I'm going to keep, and I'm going to keep pulling it out if and when I'm just feeling a bit scattered. And sometimes my memory is really bad, like I get really difficult brain fog and just lose my words entirely, so it's probably worth having at least one keyword deck in my collection. Okay, final oracle, and this one has actually come out of my bed, if that's not too intimate a thing to share. This is the Poetess Oracle. This is the French edition, because so I think that this is a really beautiful deck. I really like the artwork, apart from maybe that one. I think it's really beautiful, but the best thing about this is the poetry. Now, the poems are in French, and so I have my like little translations written in. So that is maybe more of a challenge than most people would want for like a self-care perspective. I find it quite a good distraction of like pulling a card and translating the poem and like really sitting with it. And so it's like quite a good like distraction technique, and the poetry is really beautiful. I think I'd maybe like the English language edition. I don't know if the cardstock is different because this cardstock's a bit squeaky. But I would be like really, I would definitely consider having two languages of it, if that were possible. But I think it's quite expensive to get the English edition. But yeah, that's just a nice kind of distraction deck. And then we're in the home stretch with a deck that seems to be always popping out on my channel, which is the Goddess of Love Tarot by Gabriella Herstick. I find Gabriella's content, I mean, I've done an absolutely piss poor job of trimming and edging this, but it's kind of cheeky, literally, but it's also, it's so focused on my one thing, and it's an area that I don't know, I suppose I have like kind of some baggage around, as I'm sure a lot of people do. And so if you're thinking about like self-care and stuff, then self-love can kind of come into that. And I think how we approach love in all avenues of our life says something about the love that we have for ourselves, or, you know, sometimes the lack. And so I think that this is a really powerful deck for any kind of love work, but like particularly self-love and like our own attitudes towards love and romance and sex and play and all of those kind of interlinked topics. I think the artwork's brilliant. So yeah, that's one that comes out when I've got stuff like that to work through. And this is a pouch by the lovely Kelly Bear. And then the final deck is my like original self-care deck. This is a deck that I didn't even really use for readings for a long time because I like found it too poignant, and I think I've talked about that before on here. This has got the expansion pack mixed in, so if you see random keywords, that's what that is. There's so much space, there's so much room in all of these cards for like all of your feelings, and for you to like express stuff and kind of put yourself there, but it just feels really, yeah, it holds a lot of space for the reader, I think, and I really appreciate that. I think the artwork is stunning, but there's just like there's an energy to it that, I don't know, I find it just gives me room to think and to kind of feel my way through difficult times. And I think that's something that's come up quite a lot in a lot of these decks, is my self-care is usually to do with like working through stuff. There's, you know, some distraction like the poesis and the, I don't know, rewatching QI or listening to silly podcasts and stuff, but yeah, working through stuff is like my main self-care practice, I guess. I was a big like avoider for a long time, so it's like a dedication to myself to just sit with my feelings and work through stuff, and this deck really helps. I think that's just amazing. That's so beautiful. But yeah, I think the colours and the imagery are really gorgeous. It's funny, I'm thinking about it, like I tend to avoid decks that are this simple without being like pippish, but I don't know, I really pick up what they're putting down with this deck. I think it's wonderful. So yeah, so that's my 10 decks for when you're feeling squishy and my self-care bundle. I'd be really interested to know what you do for your self-care practices, whether tarot and oracle have any part in that. I often say at the ends of my videos, I hope you're taking really good care of yourself, and that feels particularly relevant after this one. So yeah, I hope you're taking really good care of yourself, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.